We're building a RESTful web service API, and we want our API to communicate with the database. Let's say our API is being used by mobile application, and one of the features that it needs to support is to let user register, which means that mobile application will send HTTP post request with user details to our web service endpoint, and our web service will then take this information and will store it into a database. So for this particular project, I'm going to use MySQL database, and to store information into MySQL database, I will use Spring Data GPA. So our web service application that we're building will need to be able to connect to a database, and to be able to do that, we will need to add to our project MySQL connector library. And for our web service to be able to store the Java object into MySQL, we will need to use Spring Data GPA, which means that we will also need to add Spring Data GPA Java libraries to our project. Now, when we've created this project, let me open this again. Start spring.io. We've specified that to generate this project, we will use Maven. And Maven is a build and dependency management tool which uses POM XML to read information about the dependencies that it needs. And MySQL connector library is one of those dependencies, and Spring Data GPA is another dependency example that we need to add. At this moment, we've included only one dependency, which is Spring Boot Starter Web, so that we can build a web app, and another dependency was added by default, which is to support unit tests. I have prepared these two dependencies that we need to add, and I will paste them right under the Spring Boot Starter Web. So this one is Spring Boot Starter Data GPA and MySQL dependency. And once I save this project and build it, Maven will go into its repository and then take these dependencies. It will download the libraries and add them to this list, Maven dependencies. At this moment, we have a lot of them already added by Maven, and it will add this too. And if you wonder where did I take these two dependencies, there are a couple of ways to find them. One way is to go into Spring Initializer project, and then when you create your project, remember we've provided one dependency, a web, which will enable our project to be a web app with built-in Tomcat, good to build Spring MVC web services. Once you select that dependency, it will be added to the list of selected dependency. Now, if you need to add GPA dependency, the Java Persistence API, you will simply type GPA and then select this dependency. It will be added to your list, and once you create the project, it will be added to the POM XML. And same for MySQL, simply type MySQL and then select it, and it will be added to the list of your dependencies. Now all you need to do is to simply click on Generate Project, and Spring Initializer will generate the project and it will download the project to your computer. Then you can open that folder and open POM XML from that folder and copy the list of dependencies and paste them into your project. Another way, which is a little bit more advanced, is to use Maven repository. All of the starter projects are also available through the Maven repository. So if I open my browser window again, and then let me open a new tab and go to Maven repository.com, I can find all of the starter projects here. So for example, let me simply start typing Spring and then Boot. I have already hinted what to select, for example, Spring Data GPA. So I will hit enter to search, and this is the Spring Boot Starter GPA option. I will simply click on it, and there are different versions that I can choose from. So I'll pick up the latest, and here's the POM XML dependency that I can copy and paste into my project. And when you do that, please remove the version, because the version is being read from the parent project. So now if I format my code and then move mouse over and hold it a little bit, it will say that the managed version is 2.0.1 released, just like as a parent project. And same for MySQL. I can go back to Maven repository and simply look for MySQL connector and hit enter. Here's the MySQL connector Java. I can click on it. It has many different versions. The latest is 8.9 release candidate. But again, if you copy XML of this dependency, it comes with the version. If you bring it to your POM XML and paste it here, please remove the version, because Spring Boot is managing version, and if you move mouse over the MySQL, it says that the managed version of this dependency is 5.146. Is a bit different from MySQL connector version available from Maven repository, but for this library to be compatible with other libraries that Spring Boot is managing, it's better to let Spring Boot manage the version. Okay, so I can now go and format my code to make it look nicer. And Maven will go and download Spring Boot Starter Data GPA and will down MySQL connector library into our project. Let's continue to our next video.